So this is the Mavic Mini 2 or the Mini 2 with 35 mile an hour winds, just to show you it can handle, but probably not the drone of choice if you're really in these types of winds. But it's nice to know that if you do have to fly, you realistically could. The winds may take it away, but if you throw it in sport mode, it should be able to break through just about anything. I mean, not anything, of course, but 35, 40 mile an hour winds, the little guy can handle. All right, guys, so as you see, a really windy day right now. It's 17 to 40 mile an hour winds, or gusts, I should say. I'm gonna get my screen recording going, and I'm hoping the audio doesn't sound horrible. So this isn't just a wind test for the Mini 2. I had issues with my gimbal in sport mode and in normal mode with the thing really tilting aggressively. So I want to kind of test that out and also see what it does in higher winds. So as you see, if I open UAV forecast, it says not good to fly, 17 mile an hour winds with 38 mile an hour gusts. So it's pretty extreme. I mean, when the winds really start picking up, it's pretty intense. So I'm going to power on the drone, and I got a screen recording going as well. And I'm going to power on my controller. And I want to just see how it flies. Not only is how it handles in the winds, but if the gimbal can handle basically as well. So that's part of it, because people were experiencing issues with it like I was yesterday flying with it in sport mode.
The home point has been updated. Please check it on the map.
Oop, I got to change the battery. I forgot that I have. Let me see. I got a bunch of the regular mini batteries, and I'll replace it with the new Mini 2 battery, just because I don't want to jeopardize anything with power with the winds the way they are. So I'm going to take this little hub out of here, take this new battery, put this one back in the hub. Stick this guy back in. And you can tell it's windy when the props start moving like they were earlier. So we're going to get this thing started. I wish people would stop texting me, but okay.
The home point has been updated. Please check it on the map.
So we're going to let this thing, we got satellites, we got, should have good battery. And the scary thing, honestly, is just taking off when it's this windy. I know the drone can handle at least well enough to take off, but we're going to start the props.
Take off.
And we're going to just go give it some altitude.
The home point has been updated. Please check it on the map.
Get out of the way. And you could see how it's already banking. We'll fly a little closer, maybe you can see. But that's what's happening right now. And let's go and fly and see what happens. So I'm going to take it up. Whoop. And just off the sticks, it's hovering pretty well right now in tripod mode. I'm going to go forward a little bit and kind of cruise. And this thing is just drifting right now. Okay, it's back in place, it's hovering. So let's fly over the trees a little bit. We're going to kind of go, I'm watching it. I got a visual eye on the drone. Oop, there go my glasses. And it's kind of raising and lowering. There really isn't too much to actually capture today. All the leaves are basically gone. So let's try to just get something as far as footage. One thing too, when you're flying, you really want to kind of know where you're at. I know I'm right by this gazebo down here. So this is essentially my landmark. I'm going to try to shade myself from the wind. Hopefully it will help the audio a little bit. And the drone's just kind of cruising right now. Looks like it's dropping in altitude and getting blown back. Now it's going up. My controls are not being touched. But I'm going to cruise a little bit more this way. Hopefully I can maneuver this way. It's having a hard time. So I'm pushing forward and it's just going the opposite way. So I'm going to put it in sport mode and not mess around and get it back towards my direction. So if you ever feel like you're having an issue with fighting the wind like I am right now, put it in sport mode and kind of hightail. It's almost like currents with the ocean or with the lake or anywhere. You don't want to be fighting the current. You want to work with the current and have them work in your favor. So let me try to just do a little orbit, maybe of this guy. I'm going to go ahead and, I'm in normal mode, mind you, and I'm going to just see, I'm going to kind of see what happens. I'm getting a strong wind warning. Okay, that orbit is not happening with the wind. Let me try one more time. I mean, it's really blustery right now. Come on, let me see if I can nail an orbit. Honestly, though, the wind is throwing this off. But so far, the gimbal hasn't really... Let me fly sideways and see. Okay, so the gimbal, as you see, I'm in normal mode, and the gimbal's tweaking like it was in sport mode. And I spoke to DJI today. I'm going to turn to hopefully get a little bit more shelter from the wind. But I talked to DJI today, and they were saying essentially this is not a drone you should be flying if the winds are like they are right now. It's just not going to behave the way it's supposed to. It just basically isn't the drone to handle. I mean, this thing is fighting really hard. I'm going to come back over here. And I'm going to try one more little orbit of this guy and see if it works. So mind you, I'm in normal mode. SD card is full. So that's actually not too bad. It's handling. Let me try to just go sideways again in normal mode. So that's working. So maybe it's just with a certain type of wind, I'm going to go left again. So it was happening in normal mode, as you see with the high winds. If I put it in sport mode, let's see what happens. Okay, come back here. It's making me a little nervous, but whatever. I'm going to point back to where I'm at. And in sport mode, even with almost 40-mile-an-hour winds, it's still getting back to me with really no problem. Let me go in here and what card do I have? So that's another thing. With the 4K footage, mind you, it's going to be that much more. So here, let me see. I'm going to delete this. I'm actually just going to format my card. So let me see if I can do something like an orbit with the 40-mile-an-hour winds. Like they're cranking right now, and even in normal mode, it's just too much for it. So you see what's happening? I'm trying to, oh, I'm in sport mode, I'm sorry. Let me go back to normal mode. So sport mode was doing that. Okay, let me try this with a little bit more finesse. It's really tricky with the winds the way they are. So it's still cranking in normal mode too, as you see. So with high winds, don't expect your gimbal to perform the best way or the optimal way, because it's not going to happen. I'm going to cruise back this way. Okay. So let's go and try it. See, look at this. I'm not even touching the controls and the thing's just cruising around a little bit. So let's try one more orbit in normal mode. See if we can successfully do a little something without the gimbal messing up. It's just drifting. So I'm not even pushing on the stick to go backwards. That's just the wind. So let's go ahead and try cine mode. And again, too, for those guys, I'm using the Mavic Air 2 controller right now, and I have it paired with my Mini 2. If you throw it in the tripod mode, it throws it in the cine mode, so you don't have to worry about that. Let's try cine mode just for handling the wind. So it's still making a little progress. Slower movements. I could really hear the Mini 2 cranking through these winds. It's fighting, but it's handling. We keep on getting the strong wind warning, and there you go. This is tripod mode or cine mode, and you see the gimbal messing up. So it's just an example of it's not just sport mode. It's essentially the high winds that are causing this gimbal issue. So anyone who's having the gimbal issue specifically in sport mode, I would bet you if you threw it into other modes, I bet you you're probably flying in higher wind days. I could be wrong, I don't know for certain, but the winds most likely are the culprit due to the gimbal issue doing what it's doing. Right now, as you see, I'm in cine mode, and let's go, and that's freaking ripping winds right now. We're just cruising sideways. Look at the horizon right now, it's level. Let's see if it happens. Okay, so cine mode seems like it did it once, but it did do it. Let's try normal mode. I'm gonna go back the other way. So we're cruising in normal mode. But I already have proof that it's happened to me in every mode, normal, cine, and sport mode. So I'm gonna cruise back this way. And essentially, that's all the proof I kind of need. I've seen it happen with the gimbal issue in every mode, as I said. So it's not just sport mode, it's not just normal mode, it's not just cine mode. It's essentially the wind and the... All right, guys, I don't know what happened to my D850. It somehow stopped recording. And as I was saying in the video, essentially what this boils down to is the high winds. Apparently, this drone is just not meant to handle really high winds. Therefore, you have the gimbal issues, and people have been complaining about it in sport mode. But as you see in this video, I had it happen in cine mode, in normal mode, and in sport mode. So if you watch this video, I think all I did to kind of continue on was essentially fly to where I was at and land. And I hand landed the drone in the high winds, and I would advise that this is the way to do it because you don't run the risk of having it get blown over as it's about to land. So stick out your hand, essentially, push down, let the drone detect that your hand is there, and with these really high wind days, essentially grab the drone lightly and kind of get a grip on it before it just stops. So grab it and then just push down on the sticks and stop the motors. But that's essentially all I was going to kind of go with the rest of this video. I don't know why it stopped recording, but it did. And that's really it. But again, to sum it up, I talked to DJI today on the phone, and they told me that it's essentially just not the drone for really high wind days. And if there is really high winds, that's what's causing the gimbal to do what it's doing. So it just can't handle it. Again, I would be kind of curious to see if this issue happens with no wind days. So if it's a really calm day, I would want to know if people are experiencing the same kind of gimbal issues in any of the modes, let alone sport mode like people have been complaining about. So let me know if you guys have experienced a nice calm wind day or a dead wind day and had the gimbal issue messing you up with the Mini 2. I'm going to play around with it more. It seems like every time I've tried to fly lately, well, I'm in the Windy City at the moment. We have pretty high winds, and today was a really extreme day. I figured it'd be a really good day to test the winds. I know it was 38, 40 mile an hour winds, and I believe that's the equivalent of, let me see, 61 kilometers per hour. So pretty darn gusty winds to fly a little Mini 2. But again, that's what DJI told me. They just said that it was most likely because of the wind. So if we were experiencing the gimbal having these issues with the low wind day, that I believe is when it would be more concerning. So again, keep an eye on that. So all you Mini 2 owners, notate what happens on really calm wind days and let me know if you experience any kind of gimbal issues. And that's it. So if you guys haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Hit the like button. It really helps a growing channel. And I appreciate your energy, and I hope you appreciate mine. Aloha.